no one's even really willing to talk about the role that Obama played in both rigging that boycott so it was ineffective and rigging the election against Bernie Sanders.
Against
I mean,
Bernie
I'm
himself.
sorry.
That's exactly right.
I,
Calling up Pete, calling up Amy,
right.
calling up all the other neoliberals to drop out because they had a anybody but Bernie position when it came to the Democratic Party. And that was very clear. And that's why this is what we started. See, and people have to understand it's not a matter of trashing Brother Barack Obama. It's just recognizing that he appears at a particular moment as a brilliant, poised politician who serves his neoliberal function in such a way that he facilitates Wall Street reconstruction with not one Wall Street executive going to jail. He reinforces the militarism and surveillance and national security state. He assassinates American citizens with no due process. And the neoliberal media doesn't say a mumbling word.
Right.
Even the libertarians don't say a mumbling word. You can't go around assassinating folk you have political disagreements with just because you're president. They tried to do that with the Black Panther Party.
Right.
That's why Sada Shakur got $1 million bounty on her head, put there by the Obama administration, put there by Eric Holder, the Black Attorney General, and so forth. Those are truths. And you say, look, if you're interested in truth and justice, then you're going to have to be more critical of not just Obama, but what he stands for.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And that's been, and we had this problem even with Bernie. You know, what Bernie was saying, well, Brother West, now you can't say too much about Obama. I know y'all got the history. You can't say it. I said, brother, I'm working for you, but I'm a free Black man. I'm a deeply loving free Black man. Yeah, if they ask me a question, I'm going to say it. I'm not going to initiate it. But if they ask me a question, I'm going to say, no.
Obama who? But the thing is, I mean, I have a slightly different take on this because I think that that this is not about Obama really, even though we can certainly hold him accountable more for the things that Cornel's talking about. To me, it's the power behind all of these politicians.
Yes.
To me, Obama didn't have the kind of choices we are likened to think he has. Unless he was going to function like Trump, which, has real, downsides apparently.
But would it have didn't we want Obama to function like Trump for the left? Didn't we want him? See. No, look, for all that Trump was able to do, so much of it was done by executive order, right? He signed more executive orders than any president in history or something like that, right? So much of what he had a divided Congress as well. Trump didn't have a carte blanche, get out of jail free card. And Obama had all 3 chambers of government. He had the whole kit and caboodle.
Yes, but the point is those governing bodies are beholden to extraordinary wealth and capital, right? It doesn't matter what party you're talking about. That's why, to me, my expectation had nothing to do with, I didn't have that hope for Obama. I actually didn't. I understood the symbolic value. I thought he beat out, all the white folk. I think, I was happier, I was perfectly happy. And I thought, he had a vision that was closer to this potential. But to me, anybody who wants to run for office should get a handbook called Who Runs the Government? Right. And it's not the government, really. There's too much. You can't just look at campaign finance.
Yes.
That is the answer to the illusion that people have. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't vote, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't pressure officials all the way up and down the hierarchy. But I think when we get caught up in, to me, focusing on Obama or Biden or whoever it is as an individual. And this is why Cornel's point about going to look at the interests that are shaping the process is so important, because then it really does become a matter of personality. And then it becomes about who you down with and who you're not down with. And that is just a waste of everybody's time. And so to me, it's really those bigger forces.
when we're talking about Obama, we're talking about someone who really ran on campaign finance reform until he won the primary, right? Remember, both Obama and John McCain were in agreement about the need for campaign finance reform. And then Obama did that, well, what are you going to do? Unilaterally disarm move as soon as he won the primary, and backtracked. And it was actually John McCain who was coming from him from the left of, how are you going to do this? How are you going to backtrack on these beliefs? And so my critique is it's not just of Obama, but it's helping voters to recognize that you can't fall for rhetoric. The only thing that is going to really predict what politicians actually do is whether or not they're independently funded. I mean, as much as anything can predict it, right? Mm-hmm. And I tell people, like, if you were choosing candidates on a sheet of paper and all you knew about them was their names, and you could only ask one question about them, the question that I would say you should ask is, where does their money come from? And how much is coming from the people as opposed to corporations and institutions. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about Obama and Clyburn and all of these people. I think it's the conversation that is really necessary, that we absolutely have to have if we're ever going to disentangle the communities that trust these folks. And there's white versions of these people as well. Obviously,
for sure.
The entire liberal media complex is leading a bunch of well-meaning white folks down the path of believing, oh, well, Joyanne Reed said it, and whatever, Bush's comms woman, Nicole Wallace said it. She's an ally, I guess, because she hates Trump, even though she's literally Bush's comms woman. They're being diluted in similar ways. So I don't want to put it all on Black people. I guess I'm curious, Dr. West, before we let you go. Have you ever, in all of the fallout and brouhaha around your Obama critiques, has there ever been any effort by him to reach out and have a conversation with you? Have you ever been able to sit down with him or anybody in his orbit?
No, not that I know of, though. When Sister Valerie Jarrett called me a traitor and un-American, which I viewed as a compliment. I figured, they wouldn't be up for any kind of dollar. I did see him at the Urban League, and he came at me, cussing at me, talking about, well, what do you mean I'm not a progressive? What makes you think you only have one definition of progressive? I said, just we'll have a talk, though, brother. We'll have a talk. But Sonia Sanchez was there with me. Actually, she had to hold me back because he came at me pretty tight, and I'm a Christian, but not a pacifist. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, Barack Obama, come on Bad Faith Pod. You need to have a dialogue with Professor West.
What you talking about, man? I'll slap you upside your head, man. What you talking about? But you can't do that to president. You can't do that to president.
No.
But there's been no attempt to.
I mean, but I think this is actually the question that he asked you, Cornel, is a really important question that should have the air of a group of people to debate and discuss.
Absolutely.
What are the parameters of a progressive politics? At what point, right, does it become something? Go ahead, Cornel. Sorry.
No, you hit the nail on the head, as you always do, though. And he raised a question. I said, I'd love to have a serious conversation about that.
Yeah, right. And even if it's not with Obama, but it's a conversation we need to have so that people understand what these conflicts are about. Because I actually think that's being obscured. And,
but that also comes through in his book on the Promised Land. He tells the story. He said, I was looking for these smart economists with Summers and Geithner, and they were the ones who were tied into Wall Street such that I would end up protecting Wall Street. That's why I had the meeting with them March of 2009 with the 13 head Wall Street folks and told them, I stand between you and the pitchforks. I will protect you. I'm on your side.
Said that? He said that in the memoir?
Well, no, Ron Suskind had already said it in Confidence Men, but he tells a story about how they became so close.
Oh, I see. Right.
He tells us, and he says, my greatest accomplishment was rescuing the economy by rescuing Wall Street. So it's Summers and Geithner and the Reubenites who become the heroes. You see, he's very honest about that.
Right.
That's not Joshua. That's not freedom fighting. That is bootlicking and cheerleading to Wall Street greed.
Yeah,
that's what that is. Yeah, just call it for what it is.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna be a human being about it, you just say, yes, Brother West. That was the only way I figured we can go out, and therefore the brothers and sisters on the block continue to go to jail, and I wasn't gonna send one Wall Street gangster to jail, and I didn't send one to jail. Fine.
Right. I mean,
people know.
Yeah, you can't have an alignment with an entire industry. I mean, that's no different than just defending the police en masse, no matter what they do. Right. because
Right.
there's too much. There's too much.
The Federal Reserve giving $1 trillion to Wall Street with the QE. They could have been given reparations. They could have been given the banks. They could have been given. That's the community.
They could be giving
institution.
stimulus checks during the
Right.
foreclosures and preventing people from
Working
living in
people.
the street.
Absolutely. Those are choices people make. It ain't got nothing to do with his skin color. It's got to
Right.
do with his complicity and his conformity to a Wall Street centered, financialized predatory capitalism. That's the
All right.
question.
Okay, Cornel. All right. But at the same time, what would have happened had he not made that choice? You think that everyday people would have been rescued? I mean, you see like, to me, that's why I'm like, I get it. But then I'm like, what are the expectations? Right. What could he actually have done and been successful at doing?
Well, in a world
in
where
terms
he
of actually pulling it off, he might not be able to pull it off, but he would have been fighting, though, you see.
All right, well, that's the romance, right? That's the romance.
Well, but here, I think he could have pulled it off. Remember, he had the largest organizing structure of any president in American history that he chose to dismantle. He had his own personal army, right?
That's right.
And he had the people at his back, a populace that was more united than it's been in recent history, that would have backed his, if he had triumphantly said, I want this money to go to the people. Instead, what I read, segment of his book, was that he picked that stimulus number, 800 billion or whatever it was, rather out of thin air. His advisors came to him and said, this is what I think we can sell. And the economists, the real academics were saying, okay, well, this is what is needed to get us out of the crisis. And if you undershoot this, what you're going to do is prolong this crisis. This money is going to end up just being they're gone out to sea. It's not going to do, we're going to have to keep pouring money into a leaking boat. You got to plug the hole with enough money to actually stop the flow or you're wasting funds.
That's right.
Right. But that was never the consideration. The consideration was what he could sell. And this is a man who has a Democratic House and Senate and a mandate.
That's right.
Presidential mandate. And this organizing beast at his back that could have supported him and also helped to usher in victories in midterms. And we all know what happened with losing 1,000 seats over the course of his tenure, right? So,
absolutely.
I don't want our cynicism or kind of like outside pragmatism to disguise that there are real options that are before our political leadership. Mm-hmm. And just because we are disaffected and frustrated by the fact that those opportunities haven't been exploited or acted upon, I think having like pragmatism about what has typically happened and the forces that push people to make bad choices and to corrupt them, that shouldn't turn into letting them off the hook. Or a rhetoric that says they couldn't have done better, because I think they absolutely could have.